Check one. Hello everybody. Thank you for coming out. Hoping the weather was a little bit better, but we appreciate everybody. And you don't want to hear me talk, so I'm going to introduce you to the last free man in America, Gatewood Galbraith. Put your hands together.
Give you folks a chance to come in off the porch if you want to. I appreciate you all being here. I'll give you a chance to come on in this back room if you want to. I feed off audience reaction. I like to make an audience as possible. I'm going to need about 80,000 of you all here on May 22nd. That's when we take over the state of Kentucky and kick these assholes out that they had the state for all this time. Pardon my language, but the closer I get to election, the madder I get about those people up there who've been depriving us of our rights and privileges under the Constitution and as citizens of the United States of America. They're treating us like we're in occupied territory, putting military helicopters over our fields and gardens and treating us like we're Afghanistan instead of America. My first day in office, I'm going to ground every one of those police helicopters hovering over the fields and gardens of the people of the state of Kentucky. We're going to initiate a whole new relationship between the government and the people in the state of Kentucky, because for too long, people have been given the short end of the stick. And the large corporations and the special interests and the fat cats have gotten rich off the corruption that they have fostered and institutionalized in the state of Kentucky. Now listen, folks, my name's Gatewood Galbraith, and I've run for office before. And, you know, a lot of these straight people out there on this campaign, they said, well, Galbraith, you're a perennial candidate. And I said, well, hell, Kentucky's got perennial problems. You know, if the first time I had run for office, the people who had beaten me had solved the problems, I wouldn't have run again. But they didn't solve the problems, they haven't solved the problems, and they won't solve the problems as long as we keep electing those same old politicians who take payoffs from the big special interests that give them money to elect them. Exactly, you know, the reason that Kentucky is poor, and we are a poor state, folks, in the past 7 years, we've gone from being 10th poorest state to the 6th poorest state. In the last 7 years, we've dropped $2,100 in median income in this state. In 1994, Gene Strong, head of the Council for Economic Development, said he had a plan for every Kentuckian. By the year 2012, 80% of Kentuckians were going to be earning $8 an hour. That's been the official growth policy of this state for the last 14 and 15 years. Now listen, I've tried hard as hell to try to drag Kentucky out of that $8 an hour scenario. And I know a lot of you all don't want to see your children and grandchildren relegated to an $8 an hour existence. You know, that just puts them on an equal with people halfway around the world who work all day for a bowl of rice and a mat to sleep on. Well, by God, I'm not going to let that happen without a fight. I'm not going to turn Kentucky over to a free trade, a one world order, one world economy without a fight. Because all it does is it takes away all the things that makes us special in this country under the Constitution and Bill of Rights. We are special. We are privileged citizens to have due process. And when they talk about a one world economy and a new global order, what they're talking about is taking away all of our rights and making us equal with the people around the Western world who don't have any rights. Well, bull, I'm not going to give up our rights. I'm not going to give up the privileges and constitutions we have as citizens of a constitutional form of government. By God, I want individual privacy. I want individual self-determination. I don't think you should have to piss in a cup to hold a job in Kentucky, by God. Our fathers and our grandfathers' generation didn't hit the beaches of Normandy and Iwo Jima so you'd have to piss in a cup to hold a job in America. They did it so you wouldn't have to piss in a cup to hold a job in America. And we're going to see if we can't reinstitute that line of thinking here. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to make people the beneficiaries of the processes and surpluses of this form of government instead of the big special interests. Now look, Kentucky's a poor state. And the reason we're poor is we can't get in seemingly the high-wage paying jobs. For the past 15 years, we've been trying to give away economic incentives to existing out-of-state corporations to come in here and bring us jobs. And we've done a great deal of $6 and $7 an hour jobs, but we won't bring in the $10, $12, $15, and $20 an hour jobs because we're illiterate and not training our high school students well enough. You know? But listen, in 1991, we spent spent 68% of the budget on education. Today we're spending 60% of the budget on education. We're defunding the very apparatus necessary to educate our way out of poverty. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to cut out that kind of stuff. Without raising taxes, we can give every high school student, every high school graduate in the state of Kentucky a $5,000 voucher for books, tuition, and fees to any institution of further learning within the state of Kentucky. Whether it be truck driving school or cosmetology school or UK or UL or community college or woodworking or vocational school, whatever will train our high school graduate into further education. We've got to quit talking about higher education. We've got to start talking about further education because our C and D students deserve to be trained into employability too. And if you give them a little incentive, if you give them some sort of hope and vision beyond high school, they may turn into A and B students if they think they can get a leg up once they get beyond high school. We have got to give our kids some hope and incentive. You know, there's a lot of 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders out there in these poor rural counties who have no vision beyond high school. They quit trying because there is no incentive. We're going to give them that incentive, let them know we have not lost faith in them, and that we want to help them beyond the high school diploma. Now, you know, that ought to help us strengthen the K through 12 curriculum, make a high school diploma really worth trying for, and also ought to invite in some electronic and vocational training schools into the state. Because you know, if they open up a new sector of industry, they can come to the state of Kentucky and train our workers to take advantage of that job because we will train them to do that. It's not a $5,000 bank account. No money ever hits the student's hands, and it's not for pizza, rent, and beer. It only comes into existence when the high school graduate makes up their internal decision that they want to go someplace to get trained into employability. We can do that without raising taxes. The second thing I want to do is I want to make the pharmaceutical companies come into this state and put up about $500 million in drug treatment programs in this state, bringing their money. OxyContin, Lorcet, and Lortab have absolutely paralyzed entire portions of eastern Kentucky, and these pharmaceutical companies knew what they were doing. Yes. For less than a penny a tablet, they could have created OxyContin so you cannot crush it up and snort it and get high. They didn't do that to save a penny a tablet. They did that to addict large portions of the United States population that just happens to be in Appalachia of the state of Kentucky. Last year in Perry County alone, 64 OD deaths. 64 OD deaths in Perry County alone last year. By God, that's an epidemic. If that was meningitis or a killer hanging out in the woods, they'd shut the county down and call in the National Guard. But they won't do it on the pharmaceutical companies. Well, I'm going to do it to the pharmaceutical companies. Our courtrooms are overflowing, our jail cells are overflowing, our court dockets are overflowing, probation and parole is overflowing. We've gone from having 5,000 OD emergency room visits a year to 11,000 last year in the past 5 years. You can't get effective drug treatment programs in this state. And if you're one in 5 Kentuckians who's disabled, you can't get effective chronic pain management treatment in this state because of the way they criminalized anybody looking for pain pills. So we're going to we the taxpayer have been shouldering the burden on it. And it's taking away all of our law enforcement dollars, it's taking away all of our health care dollars, sucking it up for something that the pharmaceutical companies are responsible for. By God, we made the tobacco companies come in here and help shoulder their fair share of the burden. And I think it's past time for the pharmaceutical companies to be making their fair share of the burden too. Now let me tell you folks something. I was up in eastern Kentucky the other day, and the county judge in one of the larger counties up there said, you know, Mr. Galbraith, said you're going to carry this county, and you're going to carry every county that's attached to this county. He said, you're going to carry eastern Kentucky because you're the only candidate who's talking about the pill problem up here. You're the only candidate that's talking about the addiction problem up here. The others aren't even mentioning it. It doesn't even exist in their vocabulary. So we're going to take eastern Kentucky, folks, and we're going to take the 6th district here in central Kentucky, and then the rest of our opponents are going to have to play catch-up with us around across the state because we're going to take these parts of the state, and we're going to win this election here on May 22nd.